Those tourists thought tying someone to a pole and cracking jokes would make them internet legends. They laughed, until they heard heavy footsteps and a voice that sent chills down their spines. A moment ago, they were running the show, but now the rules had changed. What happened next? Well, let's start from the beginning. At the bustling intersection of Main and Sunset in Los Angeles, the scene was alive with noise and color. Cars honked, street vendors hollered, and a mishmash of smells, greasy hot dogs and designer cologne, filled the air. Amid this chaos stood Greg Carter, a 34-year-old African-American veteran now working private security. His posture was so sharp it could have been on a recruitment poster, and his unshakable calm drew attention. Greg's assignment? Guard the entrance of the luxurious Excelsior Hotel, where the British ambassador was staying. Dressed in a spotless black uniform, he radiated authority. Some passers-by even joked, "Is he one of those royal guards from London?" Tourists swarmed the area, snapping selfies with the gold-plated gates as their backdrop. Some mimicked Greg's rigid stance, testing his composure with exaggerated salutes or silly faces. He didn't budge. Years of military service had trained him to withstand far worse. Then they showed up. 4 young tourists, oozing entitlement and a thirst for online clout. Jason, the self-assured leader, had a grin that screamed trouble. His girlfriend Madison clutched her phone like it was a lifeline, already filming their antics. Tagging along were Alex, the hype man, and Derek, the wild card who took every joke one step too far. Jason's eyes locked on Greg. "Yo, let's see what this guy does if we mess with him. Bet he's one of those never-break character dudes." "Robot vibes," Madison added, angling her phone for the best shot. "Let's go viral." Jason strutted up to Greg, waving a hand in front of his face. "Hello? Earth to statue guy." No response. Jason leaned in closer, crossing his eyes and sticking out his tongue. Greg stood firm, his expression carved from stone. Alex joined in, snapping his fingers near Greg's nose. "Man, he's like a wax figure or something." Madison giggled, zooming in on Greg's face. "This is perfect. People are going to eat this up." Derek, the boldest of the group, spotted a coil of rope left by stagehands. A grin spread across his face. "Guys, hear me out. What if we tied him up? Like, just for fun?" "Bro, that's nuts," Jason said, but his smirk betrayed his approval. "Let's do it." Madison hesitated. Are we sure this isn't too much?" "Come on, he's not going to do anything," Derek replied, already grabbing the rope. Greg's jaw tightened as they approached. They looped the rope around his arms, pulling it snug against the metal pole he'd been standing by. The crowd gasped. Some laughed nervously, others whispered in concern. One bystander shouted, "Hey, leave the guy alone!" But no one stepped in. "It's just a prank, old man," Jason shot back. "Relax." Greg's training kept him still, though his muscles were tense beneath the uniform. His contract demanded restraint unless there was a direct threat to him or his client. So he stood there, bound and humiliated, as Madison leaned in with her phone. "You're famous now," she teased, her camera inches from his face. "Smile for the followers." Jason doubled over laughing. "Statue guy's going viral. Best content of the year." What no one noticed was the subtle tilt of Greg's head. The small gesture activated a silent alert to his earpiece. Backup was on its way. The group basked in their moment, oblivious to the fact that their joke had just set something much bigger in motion. The silent alarm pinged in the high-tech control room of Sentinel Security. Screens displayed live feeds of the Excelsior Hotel, including one showing Greg Carter tied to a pole, surrounded by a mocking crowd. Captain Jackson, 45, a seasoned professional with a calm but commanding presence, watched the scene unfold. Though his expression remained stoic, his tightly clenched jaw spoke volumes. "Deploy the team," Jackson said firmly, his tone leaving no room for hesitation. Within moments, 3 black SUVs sped out of the company garage, their sleek, armored frames cutting through Los Angeles traffic like predators on a mission. Inside, 8 elite security operatives prepared for action, their black uniforms bearing the crisp insignia, Security Elite. At the front was David Miller, Greg's closest ally and former military comrade. For David, this wasn't just another job. It was personal. Back at the hotel, Jason and his friends were still reveling in their antics. Jason had untied Greg, pretending it was a gesture of mercy, but Alex immediately climbed onto the pole, waving a cardboard hat in the air. "Greg, buddy, you're officially the Statue King," Alex shouted, laughing. Madison was still filming, narrating to her audience. Okay guys, this is next level. He hasn't moved once. He's like a real-life mannequin. The crowd murmured uneasily. While a few laughed nervously, others began to edge away, sensing the situation was spiraling out of control. Greg remained motionless, but the tension in his posture spoke volumes. His clenched fists and steady breathing were the only signs of his restrained anger. Suddenly, a voice boomed across the courtyard. "Everyone, stand still!" The crowd parted as 8 uniformed security operatives strode in, their synchronized movements radiating authority. David led the team, his sharp gaze locking onto the group of tourists. His presence was intimidating without a single word. This wasn't a drill, and everyone could feel it. Jason, ever the performer, tried to play it cool. "What's this? SWAT team auditions? You guys look intense." David didn't react. He removed his sunglasses slowly, his cold stare cutting through Jason's false bravado. "Untie him, now," David commanded, his voice low but firm. The team spread out, blocking all exits. 2 operatives stood directly behind Jason and Alex, their mirrored sunglasses reflecting the tourists' nervous expressions. Madison lowered her phone for the first time, her confidence wavering. "Maybe we should go," she mumbled. Jason tried to recover. "Relax, they're just security. What are they going to do? Write us a ticket?" David stepped closer, his calm composure amplifying the tension. "You think this is funny?" he asked, his tone ice cold. "You humiliated my guy. Now you're going to learn what consequences feel like." Jason's smirk disappeared. For the first time, he looked genuinely unsure. The weight of the situation pressed down, and no one in his group had a clever response. As David's team untied Greg, the crowd stood silent, unsure whether to cheer or shrink back. Greg straightened his uniform, his calm demeanor intact despite the humiliation. His eyes briefly met David's, a silent exchange of gratitude passing between them. David turned back to the tourists. "You're done here. No more cameras, no more games." Jason opened his mouth to protest, but a stern look from one of the operatives silenced him. With no escape routes and no clever quips left, he and his friends shuffled away under the watchful eyes of the security team. For Greg, dignity restored, the moment wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming respect. And for Jason and his crew, the message was clear. Some lines should never be crossed. As the ropes fell to the ground, Greg stepped back and straightened his posture. His uniform, still pristine, was a sharp contrast to the chaos surrounding him. For a moment, the courtyard went silent. Then Greg's eyes locked onto Jason's. Whatever bravado Jason had left evaporated under Greg's piercing gaze. "You thought this was just a joke?" Greg asked, his voice calm and steady, but each word cut like a blade. The weight of his question hung heavy in the air, and Jason shifted uncomfortably, his confidence unraveling. Madison, still clutching her phone, blurted out, "It's just a video. We weren't trying to hurt anyone." Greg didn't flinch. His expression was unreadable, but his silence was more intimidating than any outburst could have been. He took a step closer, his presence alone making the group shrink back. David, standing nearby, glanced at his team. "Call the police," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Jason's head snapped up. Wait, hold on. That's not necessary. We'll delete the video, right, guys?" The panic in his voice was palpable now. Alex nodded furiously, while Madison looked genuinely scared for the first time. "Yeah, we'll take it down. It's no big deal," she pleaded, but no one was listening. The security team maintained their positions, their silent presence only adding to the tension. The crowd, sensing the shift, began murmuring amongst themselves, many pulling out their phones to capture the unfolding drama. When the police arrived, the officers wasted no time. Jason and his friends were questioned, their protests falling on deaf ears. Madison's phone, along with the others, was confiscated as evidence. The tourists' earlier smugness had completely dissolved, replaced by a mix of fear and humiliation. The incident didn't stay contained. By the end of the day, snippets of the event had flooded social media. However, the narrative wasn't what Jason and his crew had hoped for. Instead of praise, their actions were met with a tidal wave of backlash. Comments poured in under reposted videos. "This isn't funny. Imagine how he must have felt." They thought this would go viral for laughs, but it went viral for all the wrong reasons. Greg Carter, Yale's unshakable legend. Their stunt, intended to boost their online fame, had turned them into the internet's cautionary tale. The next day, Greg was back at his post. He stood tall, his expression as unreadable as ever, though a quiet pride lingered beneath the surface. Around him, whispers floated through the security team. "That's the guy," one of them said. "Unshakable." Another added, "I heard they're calling him the Untouchable." Greg didn't respond to the nicknames or the newfound attention. For him, it wasn't about titles or recognition. It was about standing firm, not just for himself, but for the principles he believed in. As he resumed his watch, the world around him bustled on as if nothing had happened. But for those who had witnessed it, one thing was clear. Greg Carter wasn't just a guard. He was a symbol of resilience, someone who refused to be shaken, no matter what. What would you have done in Greg's place? Do you think his response was the right one? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's discuss. Have you or someone you know ever faced something similar? Don't forget to leave a like if this story resonated with you and share it to spread awareness. This story was created to shed light on the importance of respect, empathy, and standing up against injustice. Together, we can make the world a better place. Your voice matters.